Continuing today in Genesis 24, and we're going to start looking at verse 16 through 21. Now, Eliezer, the servant, has finally found Rebekah. He has found his woman for Isaac. And God's prayer is answered, that Eliezer lifted up a little bit earlier in this chapter, is answered so perfectly. It's absolutely amazing. Verse 16, Rebekah was very beautiful and old enough to be married, but she was still a virgin. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up again. Running over to her, the servant said, "Please give me a little drink of water from your jug." "Yes, my lord," she answered, "have a drink." And she quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and gave him a drink. When she had given him a drink, she said, "I'll draw water for your camels too, until they've had enough to drink." So she quickly emptied her jug into the watering trough and ran back to the well to draw water for all his camels. The servant watched her in silence, wondering whether or not the Lord had given him success in his mission. Okay, several things happening here. Number one, God answers this prayer, and that is absolutely wild to see how God does this. And we talked yesterday. If you didn't watch yesterday's, please go back and watch that one, because I kind of fill in, why God is doing some of these things and what His purposes is in this. But as He answers this, He sends Rebekah, and the Bible describes her as being very beautiful. And so the Bible doesn't describe a lot of women in this fashion. Rebekah's described like this. Queen Esther is described like this in the book of Esther. But this is a rarity. And so she must have been a stunningly beautiful woman by the beauty standards of that day. We know beauty standards, change over the course of time. And so, but she must have been absolutely gorgeous according to that. So he introduces himself to her. He didn't do anything to suggest that she should provide water for the camels. He wanted her to volunteer for that. That was kind of the hook for the prayer of, is this the one? Is this the woman? And she immediately gives him water and then immediately says, "Hey, I'm going to water your camel. I'll take care of this for you." This was some work. Okay, this was not easy. A camel can drink up to 20 gallons of water if it's pretty thirsty. 20 gallons at one time. That is a lot of water. So think about how many trips to the spring she had to take to then come back up and refill the trough, because it wasn't one camel, it was a bunch of camels. There was a caravan happening right here. And he stood back and he watched. Now, there is an interesting statement that happens here in verse 21. It says, the servant watched her in silence, wondering whether or not the Lord had given him success in his mission. I think you had success, son. I think you got there, okay? Everything seems to be absolutely perfect. You asked for a very specific thing. God gave you that very specific thing. So stop looking the gift horse in the mouth and take what you got, because this is exactly who God has for Isaac. See you again tomorrow.